Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Society, located in East Brunswick, New Jersey, and online everywhere. I welcome you to our multi-platform Sunday service. I am Rich Phelan. Today, I am your worship associate, and I also serve on the Futures Task Force. My pronouns are he and his. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, and all loved. Just as you are welcome here. If you are new, a very special welcome to you. We hope you experience connection and compassion and a feeling of coming home. If you are new or newish today, we hope that you will fill out one of the visitor forms at the welcome table so that we can be in touch or reach out at the email in the chat. Marie, how many people are attending online?
We have
19 people online. Reverend Karen, how many would you say are here in person?
My count is 22.
22. So we have 22 in person, 19 online. Several of you have reached out to Reverend Karen to make sure she noticed that the COVID risk level in Middlesex County went down to green/low on Friday.
Seriously?
Yes.
So many of you reached out.
Yes, she noticed, obviously. If we follow the current policies as approved by the board, we have to wait a few days. But if it stays at this risk level, beginning next week, masks will be optional on Sunday mornings. Yay! Today, after the service, is our congregational meeting. It is 100% virtual and begins at 1 p.m. And we'll be done with plenty of time before the Super Bowl starts. It starts at 6:30, so I think we're good there. Yeah. Members are strongly encouraged to attend the meeting, not the Super Bowl. You could do that too, but it's a lot of money though. Anyway, involved friends are welcome. Different than previous virtual congregational meetings, and I need you to listen to what I'm about to say, it is necessary if you want your vote to count that you attend the meeting on your own Zoom screen, not sharing a single screen with another member in your household. We will be taking our straw poll, not by a show of hands, but with the Zoom function for polling. Thank you to the congregation for your support of when 3 of our children sold Girl Scout cookies last Sunday. The girls and their families appreciate the congregation's enthusiasm. Thank you to our greeter, Pat. Thank you also to our worship crew, Andy and Loretta as our worship techs, and Marie as our chat chaplain. And now, for those in the sanctuary, please place any device you have in worship mode. No sounds or flashes. Let yourself settle into this shared space, the time for raising up that which is worthy. I invite you to light your at-home chalice to join its flame with the flame of the chalice in our sanctuary. A light in dark times, a beacon of hope in hard times, a signal of resistance against evil, symbol of our Unitarian Universalism. I invite Ziggy Aquino, I almost screwed that name, Ziggy Aquino, to give this morning's gratitude moment.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, my name's Iggy Aquino. My pronouns are he, him, they, them. So I've been following the spiritual development curriculum, and one of the practices I had to do was I had to write down 3 things I was grateful for every day for about a month. And so last night I compiled them, and I had this giant list of things, almost 90 things. I did repeat a few things, and I was like, what am I going to say tomorrow? I'm not going to read this whole list to everybody. And then I just sort of thought about it and was really grateful for the practice itself. I know it's kind of meta, but when we express gratitude, it really shows our connection to each other, to other things, and it's a way to sort of experience unity, I guess, experience the divine in everything that we experience. Sometimes it gets a little hard to see that when we're so caught up in other things. So I really just wanted to express gratitude for this moment that we have, that we share every week. People come up here and talk about what's meaningful for their lives. There's just so much to be grateful for. My family, my cats, my home, all of that. But all of it together is, it brings me closer to divine, to God, whatever you want to call it, the world, the universe. And I just wanted to say Thank you. That's it.
Our call to worship this morning is the poem Choice by Reverend Lynn Unger. There isn't a right answer. There just isn't. The game show where the bell rings and the points go up and the confetti falls because you got the answer is a lie. The preacher who would assure you of how to attain salvation is making it all up. The doctor who knows how to fix what ails you will be sure of something else tomorrow. Every choice will wound someone, heal someone, build a wall, open a conversation. Things will always happen you can't foresee. And still, you have to choose. It's all we have, the little rudder that we employ in the midst of all the eddies and rapids, the current that pulls us inexorably towards the sea. The fact that you are swept along by the river is no excuse. Watch where you are going, lean in towards what you love, and when in doubt, tell the truth. When in doubt, tell the truth. Let us spend this next hour together and perhaps our whole day, even into the Super Bowl, leaning in towards what we love.
Let us now join in saying together our bond of union, one of the founding documents of the congregation. The words are on our screen. In the spirit of community and service, we unite in the quest for those values that give our lives deeper meaning and spiritual satisfaction, reserving to each individual the right to their own beliefs as to the nature of God and the universe. Our opening hymn is a song that is familiar, even beloved throughout Unitarian Universalism, but it is not in either of our hymnals, and it might not even be a hymn. It's more of a song. It's called Keep Moving Forward and was written by Pat Humphreys and is sung and made popular by the UU music group, Emma's Revolution, of which Pat is a founding member. It's upbeat. This version is in both English and Spanish. The words will be on the video of Emma's Revolution performing the song, so we encourage you to sing along. It's full of repetition, so even those of us who do not know the song, we will likely find our way into singing. And if not the first time, then it is going to be our postlude as well, so maybe you will join in then. Let us rise in body or spirit and sing it. Today, we have what we are calling 1.5 readings. Here is the first from psychologist and author Adam M. Grant, tweeted not all that long ago. And I encourage you to listen to this one, because this one really hit me when I read it yesterday. Too many people spend their lives being dutiful descendants instead of good ancestors. The responsibility of each generation is not to please the predecessors. It's to improve things for their offspring. It's more important to make your children proud than your parents proud. The other reading, seemingly unrelated, is a poem from Ruth Feldman called Detour. I took a long time getting here, much of it wasted on wrong turns, back roads riddled by ruts. I had adventures I never would have known if I proceeded as the crow flies. Superhighways are so sure of where they are going, they arrive too soon. A straight line isn't always the shortest distance between two people. Sometimes I act as though I'm heading somewhere else, while imperceptibly I narrow the gap between you and me. I'm not sure I'll ever know the right way, but I don't mind getting lost now and then. Maps don't know everything.
This Sunday is a Sunday for new music, new energetic music, and we just heard, right, and sung along to. I was impressed with us. We tried something new. Keep on Moving Forward, which was sung at my first wedding, which was actually a commitment ceremony. It was 1993. And it was sung by dear friends, and it was before I ever encountered Unitarian Universalism. The song was originally published in 1984. But next, we're going to hear an anthem. You're not expected to sing along with it. I think it's probably a little bit too complicated for that. You are invited to enjoy it. You are invited to take in the energy that the musicians bring, to engage with the lyrics, which you will hear, but you can also read at the bottom of your screen, here and there. It comes to us from the musical duo, the Bengsons, Abigail and Sean. I first encountered them early in the pandemic. They wrote a song that we used once, maybe twice in our Sunday services, and it played on the over and over, all over social media. Maybe you remember it. It was called the Keep Going On song, right? Which is different than the Keep on Moving Forward song. Similar echoes. The anthem we're about to hear, I'm actually not sure of its title. They released it just a month ago, and it's either called In the Garden or New Year in the Garden, but it could completely have a different name. We do have their permission to use it, and we have paid them for their artistry. Sean and Abigail, I do not know them personally, but it is my understanding from people who do know them personally that they are good people. Whatever its title, I chose this song after hearing it for the first time earlier this week, knowing that it seemed like it was perfectly made for us in this moment, made for us and our afternoon activity, our straw poll, in which we will be leaning one way or another, or maybe straight down the middle towards a direction for our congregation. Why is it perfect? It starts with gratitude. It starts with gratitude and praise, then moves into honoring unknowing, honoring darkness as a source of creativity and spark, reminding us that the future was once a garden that was planned in the past, imagined by someone. May this anthem, this musical offering, move you in ways you may or may not even understand right away.
Woke up this morning and there was food on my plate. Celebrate, celebrate. And everything on that plate was there because it grew. Hallelujah, hallelujah. And everything that grew had to first be planted in the dark. The spark. And everything that was planted in the dark had to first be imagined in the dark. And everything imagined in the dark had to first be imagined by someone. Oh, someone who remembered that the future is the garden of the past. Someone who remembered there was a hunger and it was coming and coming fast. Someone who was willing to go down into their dark with roots and seeds for a future they would never see. For a future they would never see. Was it you? Was it you? Or was it you who remembered what to do? I think it was you. I'm pretty honey, I think it was you who knew what to do. Come on, hey, you know why? Well, I woke up this morning, well, there was food on my plate. Thank you, I'm gonna celebrate. Let's celebrate. Yeah, everything on that plate was there because it grew. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. And everything that grew was planted in a darkness. And everything that was planted in the dark had to first be imagined in the dark, like a spark of a mind or of a heart. And everything imagined in the dark, oh, it has to be imagined by someone. By someone. Oh, someone who remembers that the future is the garden of the past. Someone who remembers that the future is coming fast. Oh, she's coming fast, you know. Oh, someone who said yes, I'll go down into the darkness with only roots and a handful of seeds, and plant a future I will never see. I'm gonna plant a future I will never see. No, I think it was you. It was you, wasn't it? I think it was you. I think it was you who remembered what to do. I think it was you, yeah. I think it was you, yeah. I think it was you, beloved. I think you know what to do. And honey, oh honey, I'm gonna meet you in the garden. I wanna meet you in the garden.
Oh, whoosh. I brought my phone up here because, oh, I see 26 screens here. I just want to say hello to all of you who are actually not here in the room. So I'm saying hello to you, Cliff, and Colleen, and Dan, and Dell, and Demetra, and Edie, and Eileen, and Harriet, and Heather, and Jackie, and Jan, and Kathy, and Ken. Do you hear them? Can you feel them a little bit more? Because I'm saying their names. Lynn, probably George is with her, Marlene, Phyllis, Rich, and Angela, Bob, Rosemary, Ruth, Sandra. I just wanted to bring you here in the room to tell you that Bill and Lauren and Pat and Jonathan and Lynn and a guest from Summit and Carol and Doug and Vicky and Sandy and Ziggy and Victor and Jordan and Rich and I are here, and we, in fact, are here together. And Marie. The very first sermon I ever gave, I was a lay person. I was a member of the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence. That's where I raised my children. It was titled Turned on a Dime, or Turning on a Dime. It was the story of how my children came into my life, how when my first marriage broke up, I was at that choice point of letting my foster children go back into the system, or taking on as a single parent these children I already loved but did not know that I could parent on my own. Spoiler alert, right? I chose the latter. That sermon began not with my story, but with the story of my great aunt, Ruth Feldman, my paternal grandfather's sister, now an ancestor, someone I cherished in the years I knew her. When she was 54, a year younger than I am now, her beloved husband, Tommy, died unexpectedly, and her life changed on a dime. In her grief, she gave up painting, and ultimately, not knowing though, she became a poet, eventually experiencing even a modicum of fame. It was her poem that you heard Rich recite earlier, Detour. She lived a whole different life that began at the age of 54, one filled with creativity and public recognition and world traveling and a lover or two, even translating some of the writing of Auschwitz survivor Primo Levi. It is possible to change. Sometimes we choose the change, and sometimes it is foisted upon us. But it is possible, even if you don't know what that change is going to look like. That is the very nature of change, the very nature of future. We can't know it until we emerge into it. It is our lives in the present that are planting seeds in the dark, our little spark. Our future is a garden planted in the past. Our future is the garden we are planting now. And I mean that as a congregation, but I mean that for each of you. What is going on in your life right now? Now, the choice before the membership of this congregation, the straw poll that we are taking later virtually, it may be clear to you, that choice, or it may be opaque. Or like me, you might vacillate from one or the other, seeing the strengths and the potential, then seeing the drawbacks and the challenges. To be sure, each option has both strengths and drawbacks. And as you listen this morning to this sermon, if you feel that I am leaning towards one option or another, I invite you to check into as to whether that is true, because it might be, but I'm hoping not. I've worked really hard not to go there. But whether that sense that you have comes because some of what I am saying resonates with you, either in agreement or disagreement. During the many months which the Futures Task Force developed the two options that will be in front of the congregation, I personally have vacillated from one option to another, not about my preference or personal favorite, that really doesn't matter, but which one is the so-called right one? And ultimately, where I have landed, and I am not about to tell you which option I would vote for, I don't vote, and I'm not going to lean one way or the other. This is all for you, all on your hands. But the place that I have always consistently landed is on advice that I have always found myself telling my children, who are now in their late 20s. There is no right decision here. There is only a decision to make, and then you make that decision the right one. I'm going to say it again. There is no right decision that exists out there, and we hope to grab at it. There is a decision before you, you make it, and then you make that the right one. Maybe you feel relief. If any of you have a smidge of perfectionism, you'll feel like, oh, thank goodness, there's not a right one. There's not a perfect thing. But maybe you feel the weight of that responsibility, because it means that whatever option the membership of this congregation eventually chooses, again, today is a straw poll, it's non-binding. Every action you take has consequences. It falls to you collectively to make it the right one for you collectively. And to make it a little bit more complex, it's not the right one for you collectively now. It's the right one for you collectively 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. You are the ones planting the seeds for the future garden. It is up to you to make that right choice for people who may be in the room, but who may not yet be in the room. You are shaping the future. And so in the midst of that, I have 4 pieces of advice. They tell us when we preach, never go more than 3. 3 people can remember, but 4 they can't. But I'm going to trust you all that you're going to remember 4. Number 1, you've got this. I'm wearing the stole you gave me when I returned from sabbatical 2 years ago. And that was the phrase that we used during sabbatical. You've got this. It's true. Number 2, familiar may seem easier, but paradoxically, it may well be harder. So I beseech you not to confuse familiar with easier. The full-time familiar option, that's what we've named one of them, is most recognizable because it looks most like what you're familiar with. And that familiarity, though, it comes with a decades-long pattern, not just a pandemic-long pattern, a decades-long pattern of decline. So if you only do what is familiar, nothing will change, including that decline, except one thing. Every one of us will get older. Really. And with that typically comes less capacity. I say it might be harder because there will be no major shift that brings with it the necessary momentum that requires change of doing things, the change that we need, not to guarantee, but to possibly slow, possibly stop, possibly even reverse that decline. I say it might be harder because even though the idea of paying staff to do outreach, this is one of the things that is on the table, no one really knows what outreach means. In an American landscape where fewer and fewer people join both secular and religious organizations, becoming more visible might not yield on its own what we're hoping for. In fact, effective outreach for a community like ours looks like people who are already attending bringing their friends or people they know. Effective outreach for a community like ours is committing to developing a sense of greater purpose that centers living out our values in the world and then inviting people to join us. I have told this to leadership and anyone who will listen. If this congregation does not do some extensive mission vision work, it does not matter how many staff hours you fund to dedicate to outreach. Effective outreach in a community like this, at this time in the pandemic, 3 years since it began, looks like improved in-reach. And one part of that is upping our game when it comes to greeting and welcoming. And we have a plan actually to do that. We're scheduled a greeting, training, and lunch, there will be food, on April 2nd, because we can and should do better when it comes to welcoming those who visit. And maybe you will participate on April 2nd. All of this is to say that the part-time partnership, that's the name of the other option, there is much that is unknown, and there are partners to collaborate and figure it out. All of this is to say that with the other option, full-time familiar, there is much that is unknown, and there are habits that will have to bend, some of which will have to break. Both options have their benefits, both have their drawbacks, and there is no right decision here. There is only a decision to make, and then to make it right. I started the sermon talking about the most significant choice point in my personal life, a a story that I have shared at least twice in sermons here. The second time I shared it, someone came up to me, somebody who might be sitting there, and said, "Oh, I love that sermon." I'm like, "It's the second time you've heard it." It's like, really? Really? My now adult children, once foster kids, came into and stayed in my life. That was the story. And it was about how my great Aunt Ruth figured into that mix. I didn't tell you then one part of the story, but I think it's important to tell you now. And it's less about my children and more about Ruth, because it feeds into my third piece of advice. Do not kick the can down the road. Long before Ruth ended up in the nursing home where my kids and I would bring her carry-out hot fudge ice cream sundaes, because that was just about the only thing she was eating at that point. Long before I even knew my kids, Ruth lived a rather elevated life in a beautiful apartment overlooking the Charles River in Cambridge, Massachusetts. She also lived in Rome for 3 months out of every year. She had a good life after 54, frankly. She loved her apartment, she loved her building, she loved her neighbors, and they loved her. She did not want to leave it. She said it kept her young because she knew so many people across so many ages. It was a time when neighbors still knew each other and talked to each other. Sometimes that happens, some places still. You might recognize this next thing, but she, from people you love, maybe your own self, she stayed in that apartment much longer than she probably should have. Because by the time she moved into a pretty fancy apartment in an independent living facility, the transition took too much out of her, physically, emotionally, and she never really recovered from that move. She had held on so long to what was familiar that by the time she made a change, the change was too big. She couldn't handle it, and she ended up only staying a few months in that apartment before moving on ultimately to a nursing facility where she died. So it is possible for all of us, but in this moment, with this choice ahead of us, to kick the can down the road. I can conjure in my mind a handful of ways which that will take shape, but I won't go into the details. But even if that seems initially easier, I don't recommend it. I do recommend, and this is my fourth and final piece of advice, that throughout this whole process, the many months to come, that you check in with each other, whether you are here in this room or online virtually, in the days and weeks to come. I ask you especially to check in with those fellow congregants who you sense voted differently than you did, who seem to see things differently than you do, regardless of which option or result we have this afternoon. Let us do our very best to make sure there are no winners or losers, no matter what the result of the poll is today, that we are always journeying together in covenant with each other, in community with each other. So those four pieces of advice from your minister in reverse order: check in with each other. Don't kick the can down the road. Familiar is not necessarily easier. And you've got this. You've got this. May you lean in towards what you love as you employ your rudder in the midst of all the eddies and rapids that are pulling you inexorably towards the sea. May you know that there is no right decision. There is only a decision to make, and then to make that right. May you choose, instead of being dutiful descendants, to be good ancestors. May you keep on moving forward. May you make the future an open possibility for growth. May you be gardeners of the future, planting sparks in the dark. So be it. See to it. Amen.
In the spirit of generosity, we will now take up this morning's offering. If this is your first time joining us, please be our guest and let this service be our offering to you. We invite you to use the link in the chat, the QR code for Breeze Giving on the screen, or the basket in the back of the sanctuary to give as part of what we call Be the Change, turning what was once the change in our pockets into the change we want to see in the world. Half of what you donate goes to sustain this congregation, and the other half goes to a community partner living out our shared values. The recipient this week is Black Lives of UU, or Blue, B-L-U-U, pronounced Blue. Blue is an organizing collective of Black UUs working to expand the role and visibility of Black people within our Unitarian Universalist faith. Let me try it again now. Within our Unitarian Universalist faith. Starting with the 2016 General Assembly, Blue focused on educating participants on the Black liberation movement within and beyond Unitarian Universalism, directly addressing the assumption that we are a white faith and confirming that the presence, the voices, and the perspectives of Black UUs is critical to countering the impact of anti-Blackness, so that we as a faith may move forward toward wholeness. May your generosity heal the world and strengthen your heart.
Yes, Carol just said she misses Nick, our previous music director. So we sometimes get to use his pre-recorded music, and he gets a little bit of money from that. So today's order of service has been a little bit different, and we're gonna, usually, like I'm always like 5 or 10 minutes over the hour, and we're gonna end early today, but we'll end with prayer and with singing Spirit of Life towards the end. We aren't doing Joys and Sorrows. So I invite you, to settle into a time of prayer, of meditation, of contemplation, of connecting with that yearning sense that your heart may hold for you, whatever it is, whatever word or concept most resonates for you and the wisdom of your body. Spirit of life and love, there are times when it is painfully evident how fragile life is. Our hearts are heavy as we think of those who have been affected by the earthquake in Turkey and Syria. May there be comfort and strength for those who lost loved ones. May there be medical care for those injured. May there be shelter for those who lost their homes, their neighborhoods. May humanitarian aid find all who are in need of it. May those responding be protected from the trauma they encounter. May those among us and those we love and those we do not even know have relief from pain, relief from hunger, relief from isolation, relief from harm, relief from heartbrokenness. May the journey this congregation is taking into its future strengthen its sense of purpose and identity, allow them to demonstrate and experience relational curiosity, grow connections among those who do not know each other well, and lead to a more robust presence of our faith in this place we call home. May we raise our voices and add our bodies in resisting efforts to enact anti-trans legislation in our nation, threatening the health and very lives of members of the human family we hold dear. Access to affordable health care, including gender-affirming and reproductive health care, is a right everyone should have, not withheld due to politics or geography or funds. May it be so. May every human on this earth know delight, know joy, know safety, know their truest place and their deepest potential within this interdependent web of all existence. May there be courage when necessary. May there be laughter at all times, but never at anyone's expense. May there be hope grounded in reality and compassion rooted in justice. Let us spend a few moments together in shared stillness, connecting with the prayers only our own hearts know, until the chime rings again. Amen. Let us stay seated and sing Spirit of Life. It's on the screen.
It is now time to bring our Sunday service to an end. After the blessing, Reverend Karen and I will recess from the sanctuary and wait at the doors to greet you as you leave the sanctuary. Please remember to attend our congregational meeting that starts at 1 p.m. The link was sent out on Thursday morning and should be in your inbox. Let us speak these words in unison as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. With these we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
May you know the blessing you already are. May you sense the blessing you yet can be. And may you go out and be a blessing in the world. And may you enjoy the blessing.